Cold at the touch, dead in the eyes, no signs of life no more. I put your love under the knife. Leave me to die here all alone. No signs of life no more, no. A crying dove may never fly. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. Just black and white. No more. Black and white, just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. Just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. Just black and white. Black and white.
Good evening, ladies. Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to Simracersworld TV for round 7 of the SRW NEXT-Gen NASCAR Cup Series. The Dynamixx Talladega 105 laps around this fastest speedway in the land. The cursed place that is Talladega. Indeed, I'm joined by Edward May. My name is SRW. It's a pleasure to have you along with us tonight here. A bit of a meager field, I'm afraid, Edward, but that aside, we're in for some special racing here at Talladega.
Yeah, Talladega Super Speedway, and it's always a super evening's worth of racing whenever NASCAR comes here in real life, and of course, here in the Simracersworld NASCAR Cup Series. Like you said, a slightly smaller field than what we've been used to all season long, of course. Getting towards the later end of the year, real life commitments coming back through for some of the people here this evening. So, of course, hopefully we'll be able to see them back in later on. And it's a circuit where drivers can try and work together. It's very much a draft-heavy circuit, as we can see Matthew Sufi in behind. Yeah, that's the Damien Van Imbecile. I think that's how you pronounce that. Damien, in behind Damien. Working together. I was waiting for you to help me out there, Hester, and not laugh at me, but we move.
I'm sorry. That's cracked me up in a whole new way, but I'm so glad you joined here tonight. We're in for a bit of a tactical one, I think, indeed, and actually, sides of the field as well. I had my hopes up we might just go all the way through on the green here tonight. Damien Van Imbecile it is. You're completely correct on the pronunciation, by the way. So no worries there for you, Edward. Which is basically why I didn't want to come in and say anything, because you were spot on. I could have told you that, though. That might have been the decent thing to do. That's duly noted for next time. I have some interesting facts about Talladega. I'm gonna wait a bit because, you know, we might been reading up. I just saw this documentary, so I'm stacked up with Dega facts for everyone tonight. And it's a very special place. Indeed, it holds a very special place in NASCAR history. And those are some very special bushes that we gained from TV2 on pit entry. They'll duly avoid as well. We're still seeing this. This is one of those tracks, Edwards. It's basically flat out all the way through. You do not really have to lift. And as such, it tends to be very, very close indeed around through here. The thing, of course, being that you sometimes have to cool down the engines, at least with the older cars. My apologies. And that has a tendency to be a bit of a trouble causer. But that aside, it's dare we say relatively simple running at a super speedway like this. Certainly compared to when we saw racing at Bristol or when we had the road race at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, practicing pit entry there. We can see Matthew Sufi coming in. There's going to be a lot of pack racing, I think, more than anything else, as the drivers in their way through this practice session, because Hassa, I think we've already had qualifying.
Yes, indeed. As I was coming my way through a piece of licorice, almost contact between John Barnes in the 777 and Damien Van Imbecile. Indeed, I believe we will be able to bring you results of qualifying there on your screen. Indeed, John Barnes on pole position for Quantum, ahead of Paul Gosling, then Robbie Lundgren, Bart Daleman, Kip Behate, contesting Matty Sufi Bram van Uyten, Hendrik de Graeve, then Damien van Immerseel, and Adam Wright. Not setting a time. I don't think he's been on track either. But we'll have to see if he makes the start of the race. That aside, as we'd expect with the super speedway, the field very, very close indeed. And, well, no real surprises there, but let's jump on board with Damien van Immerseel, and it's going to give us a pretty good idea of these steep 33-degree bankings. And even here on the sim, you get a pretty good idea of just how steep these banks are. There's a good part of the reasoning why you can keep the car flat out. But something I will start out by mentioning is the legend of Talladega and the Talladega curse as well. The track being built upon Native American lands. It is said that a Native American tribal shaman once bestowed a curse upon these lands. That curse resides to this day as well. Well, either that or it's just a crazy place to go racing. I don't know what your shot is on that, Edward.
Well, it's a bit crazy, isn't it? Seeing the cars go absolutely pinned to the floor, flat out all the way around Talladega. You can see John Barnes there for Quantum Racing. Very nice looking Quantum Racing livery as well. Seems to be a little bit of weirdness going on my end with the 777 on the side. It seems like there's two of them layered on for some reason.
No, it's that's on my end as well. I think it might have to do the issue that sometimes happens if you have a stock livery selected in iRacing and then use trading paints. Sometimes tends to cover the numbers on top, but it does look a little bit weird, the one on the roof as well. I guess we shall never know. Here's Bart Daleman. He's on track as well in the 24. And I'd be surprised. We've got a lot of the championship fighters not here as well. Going for a certain drop round. We'll have to see that. But in turn, it's a little bit strange to see these numbers in the end, and a bit of a shame because obviously, honestly, we would enjoy having just a slightly bigger field at an oval like this at the super speedways. It does add so much to the spectacle. We'll get the best out of it for sure, and as I said, it does give us a decent shot of actually getting to the checkered flag relatively incident-free, which is something that we would enjoy.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. It would be good to obviously have more drivers out on the track all together, racing nice and hard, but we make do with what we have, won't we, Hasser? And we'll hopefully be able to have some excellent racing to look forward to, as well as there's only about a minute remaining in this warm-up sessions. The drivers, you can see, doing a bit of pack racing together, trying to work out the slipstream, work out how much you can gain in behind, and maybe see what ways you can drive a way through. Of course, Talladega being a super speedway, flat out all the way through, uses the fuel quite a lot, as well as much as through the tyres, so that could be a thing to consider in the race as well, of what drivers do with the strategy and potential cautions that might come through.
Yeah, indeed. But it's probably going to be a case of the leader jumps, then everyone goes in as well. I think drivers will be using the potential caution periods that'll arise throughout the evening to make their tire stops, or their fuel stops mostly, as I also have a slight idea that I don't think the tires are going to take too much of a beating here. Just like we've seen before at Daytona as well. Usually there the tires really take too much wear, so I think we might see a single tire change. Might see two as well, I'm not quite sure, as I don't have that much experience driving the car, so it's still from guesswork on my end, to be honest. But I just have a sneaking suspicion that the tires aren't gonna be the big deal tonight here, as we have the session take over, and we'll have the grid on screen for you with John Barnes, as mentioned before, on pole position ahead of Paul Gosling, Robbie Lundgren, and Bart Daleman. In behind John Tosting, Maddie Sufi, Bram van Uiften, Hendrik de Grave, Damien van Immerseel, and Adam Wright, rounding off the 11-car pack that we have on here for tonight. And the phantom of the oval track indeed is back, in Robbie Lundgren in the number 9 car. Very theatrical indeed.
Yeah, let's see though if he's going to come through for success here at Talladega as the cars get ready on the pace lap now. Who's going to come out on top in Talladega? 105 laps to go on the board. And it's anyone's guess. You can see the cars now. Oh, this is going to be great, Hasse.
So it is on board with Adam Wright. The drivers that'll certainly be well, hoping for a bit of good luck to come his way. He's ever so often been involved in the thing that basically has to come to define NASCAR racing. Not so much here on Simracersworld TV, but in real life, in the modern era, the big ones, the pileups, the crashes that we do see from time to time, and some races obviously worse than others. But in real life, over the last few years and over the last 10 years or so, it's been it's been getting worse, or as the Americans would say, maybe even getting better, because they do seem to enjoy their crashing NASCAR being an immensely popular spectator sport. And with the racing, and some of the racing we've seen generally, of course, of the seasons with this series, but it's nothing strange, really, is it? John Barnes, though, on pole position yet again, and he's been such a consistent qualifier. Another driver to really found his season hampered, sort of by bad luck, basically.
Yeah, this is going to be very interesting to see how this all unfolds. Now the cars are about to go racing here. Hasse, for the first time tonight, the green flag will greet the drivers here at Talladega.
Indeed, and now we're just waiting for John Barnes to get rolling, and he does so quite early. Tries to get the jump on Paul Gosling, sitting on the high side. And then the question is, just how quickly will we see that single line forming? That's John Tosting on the outside there in the 999, making it an early 3 wide. As I think Bart Daleman's having none of that 3 wide business. The thing is, you need a helping hand around here. You need the slipstream. So it's either single file or it's everyone 2 wide. And if it's not everyone 2 wide, it's not going to work out for those hanging on the outside, as they're going to find quite quickly indeed. Damien van Immerseel is ever so slightly off the back as well. That is not a position you want to find yourself in from the very get-go. Mind you, this is not just a 1-car slipstream, this is the slipstream of this entire train of machines, still led by our pole setter here, John Barnes, in the 777.
John Barnes there leads the field, but he's closely followed. Look at the chasing pack now, single file here at Talladega. John Barnes wants some racing. Now from Manchester, under a lot of pressure though from Robbie Lundgren.
As we'll see, I think, tonight as well, Edward, this is going to be one 1 long chess game of the opening but I will expect to be around the opening 80 laps or so. It's going to be a big, long chess game of trying to position yourself well, coming into those final 20 to 25 laps that always define these oval races. And even though it's a 2.5 mile track, that's about 4.2.3 kilometers or so. But it's the speeds that they travel around it here. It's certainly something that makes it seem a lot shorter. They still get around in well shorter and well under a minute. And I think, and I'm not quite sure if it's still the case, but for a number of years, Talladega has been the home of closed circuit speed records that here over the years in various machinery, and even speed records set for 18-wheel trucks here as well, Edward. Would you believe that?
That's going to be very interesting, isn't it? 18-wheel trucks. Oh, big old beasts, aren't they? Matthew Sufi, he's in behind, actually got a teammate, Bart Diamond, just up the road. They're going to try and work together. This is one where you can work with a teammate very handily. However, it's a lot harder when you've got someone right up your rear end, and that's exactly what Hendrik de Grave is doing. So, as we come now through to conclude lap 4 of 105, the order is still John Barnes, and Robbie Lundgren, Kim Mahay at 3rd, Bart Diamond 4th, Matthew Sufi 5th, Hendrik de Grave in 6th, ahead of Ryan Van Uitven, Adam Wright, John Tusting, Paul Gosling, and Damien Van Immerziel.
Yeah, indeed. But, I mean, at this point, and this is what I meant with the whole chess game thing as well, I don't expect to see people getting 2 races. You can see those cars that got left there on the outside, they're getting nowhere. And whoever comes in from the back needs to recognize the fact that you really need to get that slingshot on the car up ahead. And, it's not easy to come around. Gonna make an attempt here. You certainly need the help of the car behind to bump draft you on through the side draft, and give you a little bit here as well. You get up too high on the track compared to that low line that seems to be the preferred line, down by the yellow line, and the shortest way around, of course, as well. Gonna be
It's
difficult.
working out for them, aren't they? They're all going around the outside now. They were side by side with the 284 of Ryan Van Uitven, but now you can see Adam Wright in the BSTV esports car, wheel to wheel with the Flemish Simsport car of Hendrik de Grave. So definitely making some places, getting assisted by side draft. Similarly helping out, you can see Adam Wright as Paul Gosling now opts to go on the outside line, and he's gaining as well.
Interestingly though, Paul Gosling started in 2nd place, I think, and he's now in 10th. So he's fallen down through there, but I think by not really sliding in quickly, there's a bit of a jink. You can see the inside line now seems to be the prevailing one. Oh, that's
Well, actually, you can see there's been some moving around, and now the 2 Simracersworld esports cars have gone up in front. They could see the charge coming through from the 27 in behind of Adam Wright, and both Matthew Sufi and Bart Daleman opting to go for the higher line here. So we're starting to see 2x2 racing. They went single file. Now they're going to go double file.
Yes, indeed, and this is where the real tactics start of trying to squeeze in old Daleman, touching the 87 there. They were, I'm sure they made contact, ever so slightly. You don't want to do that too often. The setting that's for sure up ahead. We still have Barnes, Lundgren, and leading Behait, De Grave, Daleman, Van Uitven, and then Sufi. Who is up there in the championships. I've looked around in all 4 corners of the world, Edward. I haven't been able to dig up the championship standings for this round. as we haven't gotten the graphics through, and even in our secret broadcast folder, I haven't been able to find it. So I'm a little bit at a loss to just how it stands. Although I do know this man in the picture right now is very much up there in the overall standings, and he'll be hoping to gain a good haul of points as well today. That much is for certain.
Yeah, for definite. Now the car's slotting back into single file. Drivers that lost out, well, both the Simracersworld esports drivers losing out on occasion, dropping back in behind Flemish car. Which is a bit of a shame, but obviously the plan didn't quite work out, going too wide in all the cars. So now slot back in single file. John Barnes again under a little bit of pressure from Robbie Lundgren, who, let's be fair, Robbie didn't have the best of times last time out at Watkins Glen on the road course, but back on the ovals, he seems to be finding his feet once more.
Absolutely so, and it's sure it's gonna have to have been such a difficult and different race as well last time around. And now we see, Edward, that outside charge came to nothing here, and it's back into single file. And I think whoever went out there sort of has come out worse in the end. And mind you, of course, this is the first time we see the next-gen machines race here at Talladega. So any differences to how they work dynamically as opposed to the old generation cars, Gold Cup car. Here is Daleman now inside, still with Adam Wright though, tusting on his tail. And then that's Paul Gosling. There's a bit of a Brit train forming there on the high line. Bit of a gap forming as well, but that's not to worry about. Impressively so, I believe we do still have the top 10 within a second. That's not something you'll see anywhere else, basically. And again, bigger fields and such, there are instances at tracks like these, Edward, where you can have the entirety of the field within 2 seconds, basically. Which, to any road racing fan, sounds absolutely insane.
Yeah, it would be, but this seems to be part of the course, doesn't it, at Talladega? Ours all together, trying to work together as Paul Gosling still not having a great time all the way down the back, just seeing all of this unfold, probably looking after the tyres just a touch, and maybe towards the end of the stint, going to see if he can use that to his advantage and charge back up through the field. Spending a lot of time in behind, just trying to find a way. You can see he's being a lot more smooth, actually opting for the middle of the road instead of, I guess, taking a shallower line, having to use the tyres more, but then going out wide, losing the speed, and also scrubbing a little bit as well, just from some slight understeer that could creep in when you're on the less grippier surface. So he's using that middle ground to both get a good run, but also not use the tyres so much.
Yeah, indeed. And I think a lot of drivers are reaching just that, oh, they should jump down ahead there. Adam Wright, he had the chance. And he does so, but it's a little bit late. As they weave into single file, I believe, all of them. Yet again, back up with the leaders. Robbie Lundgren still sitting in a comfortable position. So does Kim Behate in the 86. Hendrik de Grave as well. Of course, one of the championship contenders this season here. He's joined by Bram van Uyften and Bart Daleman. So a bit of a Belgian train as well. Sufi splitting the Brits further down the order. And Immerseal now half a minute down here, Edward. That's how much it's gonna cost you to get dislodged from the train here.
Yeah, definitely a driver that will be hoping for a caution sometime soon. The rest of them won't be hoping for that at all, because they are clear off and away and having a good time trying to work together at this early stage of this Talladega race. Up there on them in the 24 car. Not off to the greatest of starts, but still trying to claw something back, perhaps now in behind Van Uytven. Dynamixx Racing Simulators just up the road. You can see actually they are braking. I thought for a minute they were going to break too wide. I think that might have been Hendrik de Grave looking to the outside, choosing not to. Two Simsport drivers working together, as we have the Simracersworld esports cars actually split by John Tusting.
So Tusting's gotten himself in between the two, and he's made up a bit of position as well here. Man from Norwich. Crossed arms seem to be the order of the day on those driver pictures. And Adam Wright on the outside, trying to get through on the 64 of Matty Sufi, but it's not really coming along for him, is it? And I think, yet again, it's just been that can make the high line work, but you basically need the same mass of cars as you have working the lower one. And with the amount of cars we have on track tonight, it's not really that sort of racing, it seems, that we're in for here.
Okay, so for the moment, John Barnes clearing away at the front, leading every lap so far ahead of Robbie Lundgren. Now look at them go too wide up in front. It's not just the number 27 of Adam Wright, it's also Matthew Sufi who's opting to go for the higher line, and he's going to see if he can clear through and get ahead of John Tusting, who did split the two Simracersworld esports cars. He seems to have done that, but now slotting in behind, that's going to be a lot harder, I think, for him to do. He might have a car split now if he opts to go to the inside and slot through, which he does. I think the spotter... Actually, no, he doesn't. I thought the spotter was going to call for him to go on the inside, but actually he chooses not to because his teammate looks to go on the high side, gives him a little bit of slipstream and allows the move to be concluded a little bit easier. And I think that was what Matthew Sufi was waiting for. A little bit of assistance in the slipstream from his teammate Bart Tailman, able to slot in behind. And now look at them up in front, too wide. And it's actually, oh my word, it's John Barnes. He's dropping back.
Oh! So whatever happened to John Barnes? I have no clue here, but we'll see what happened here. Robbie Lundgren with the pass. Might have been a little bit of a... Oh, he got his nose in. And there you can see it. Absolutely being...
And that upset the apple cart as well for the two Simracersworld esports cars. You can see the run they had, and they were stopped in their tracks by John Barnes.
Indeed, Barnes lost 4 positions in that short amount of time now, having left the race lead to Robbie Lundgren, Kimbe Haidt and de Grave up into the podium spots as well. Then Van Uytven. Behind it's Daleman, Tusting, and then Matty Sufi, who hasn't been able to find the way through on the drivers up ahead. And you gotta wonder, maybe John Barnes wanted to give away a few positions or so. I'm not quite sure about it, but it might be he was thinking like he would be the one spending too much of his fuel there out ahead. And
so John Barnes up in behind. Gonna try and come back through the field now after getting sent to the high line around the outside. Was just left with nowhere to go other than backwards, unfortunately, but now he's going to look to get past. Very nicely liveried 284, you've got to say, very distinct. He stands out, doesn't he, Bram Van Uytven?
yeah, it's the what is the it's the tow car from Cars, isn't it?
Yeah, I think Mater, isn't it? From
Yeah,
Cars.
it is Tow Mater. Indeed it is. Replacing the radioactive 284 livery, as I think Bram must have realized that it in the end didn't fool anyone and didn't help anyone stay clear of his machine, and he's now he's opted for a new livery for the first time in 3 seasons now, so it's something rare we've seen now there from Bram van Uytven. Evening to Jakob Szymanski, by the way, to Huracan, to Sinkers, and to the Mew as well. Nice to have you along. welcome, gentlemen. Women. Or gentle in-betweeners, if that's what you are. No discrimination you shall find hereabouts.
Gentle people.
Gentle people, indeed. Thank you, Edward.
Gentle people, everybody here today. Hope
Certainly,
you are enjoying the show.
not how you would introduce your regular American NASCAR fans there, Edward. Certainly doesn't seem like the gentlest of people to me.
No, but we are seeing the drivers starting to fight a little bit. Adam Wright has now been passed, actually, by the number 5 of Paul Gosling, who's trying to get back up the order, slowly but surely succeeding, as we saw Damien Van Immerziel dropping back, trying to get to the rear of the train and hook up to the slipstream. He's now been lapped by all of the field. Robert Lundgren heading the field, the phantom of the track. Clear to be seen right at the front, however, ahead of Kim Verhey and Henrik de Grave, who might start to work together now as the Simracersworld drivers could opt for a bit of bump drafting, perhaps on the high line, to see if they can maybe upset the run of Robbie Lundgren. As in behind, actually, you can see Van Verleitven almost looking for a move on Henrik de Grave. Not able to find that space. John Barnes as well, almost pushing along 284. Toemater of Van Verleitven. Wonderful shot there. You can just see how fast the cars really are going. Robbie Lundgren leading ahead of Kim Verhey. Henrik de Grave in behind as well. As there's a little bit of squabbling in behind. Paul Gosling just fending off Adam Wright for the moment. All cars all together at the moment. Apart from Damien Immerziel, who's unfortunately not having a great time dropping back from the pack yet again. Wasn't able to hook up to the slipstream, unfortunately, it seems. All right, for now, what can he do? He's not got any help around him. The Dynamixx Racing Simulators driver. 2 teammates of Flemish Simsports in front. And he's got Quantum Racing, Simracersworld Esports, another Quantum Racing car, and then another Simracersworld Esports cars. So he could be left all out on his own here.
That is one good point. Indeed, that's really the risk you don't want to take, as we've seen several drivers taking their nose up high. If someone gets that nose up the inside, then you're basically left to rot on the outside there, and you'll be so until someone decides to be kind enough to leave you the space to actually, or if you just take the risk and give yourself, allow yourself the space to get back in line. And basically it's not all that simple. This is why gaining track position on these tracks with these in this restrictor plate era, if you will, it's by no means easy, because, well, while overtaking is possible, it takes a while. It's always associated with quite a bit of risk. Not only the risk of coming together, but the risk of being caught on the outside and then passed by basically the entire field here.
Yeah, not what we're not going to be hoping for at the very least. But he's doing well so far, holding on to P4. Plenty of movers and shakers. All drivers that qualify towards the front have more or less been shuffled backwards. But the drivers that qualify further back have really profited in this early phase of the race, but there's still plenty of time to go. Almost at the quarter mark so far as we complete lap 25 of 105 now. Another thing to note as well, actually, about Talladega is the fact that the start-finish line is a little bit after the tri-oval, isn't it? Just towards where the pit exit is, which has been the reason why we've seen so many amazing last-moment finishes where it's been a photo finish at the line.
We've seen some crazy finishes over the years at Talladega, and some of the closest finishes in motorsports history as well, all together, I think, has happened here at this track. And we've been down at 0.002 of a second separating the lead cars. on the line, which is rather impressive in the end, it has to be said here. And a slight gap there ahead of John Tusting. It's not going to be problematic in any way. It should be able to just drive straight up into it.
Yeah, John Tusting, the 999, trying to make his way back up the order. Doing all right so far. Up ahead of Matthew Sufi, splitting once again the two Simracersworld Esports Alpha drivers. Simracersworld Esports Alpha of Bart Diamond, Simracersworld Team Bravo for Sufi. Adam Wright as well. He's been trying to find a way through, just been hanging back, making a few gains here and there. Now back in front of Paul Gosling, actually, so we've seen those two swap positions a couple of times, and yes, again, it is Adam Wright now to the front. Robbie Lundgren doing well as in addition, actually, isn't he, at the front of the field and holding on nicely.
Yeah, indeed. But the thing is that I think the cars behind him aren't really too keen on being the ones out there for themselves. Of course, the Flemish cars could work strongly together, but I think it's nothing they can't do with the machine of Robert Lundgren right now. That they'll be in prime position to pounce later on. Save that little bit of fuel and get the pit stop done and turn that little bit quicker. Barnes, Daleman, Tusting, and Sufi. Adam Wright and Paul Gosling as well. They'll all be wanting to get the better of him. And look at Paul Gosling here, almost nonchalantly hangs out at the back of the field. Give himself space to breathe, but also staying well within the slipstream. Maybe making sure that he can utilize that arrow a little bit more. Here is Damien van Immerseel.
Yeah, Damien not having a good time up at the back, unfortunately. Robbie Lundgren having much better time towards the front. Still under a bit of pressure from the two Flemish Supersport drivers, Kimber Hayet and Henrik de Grave. And they're still sticking very close to one another, aren't they? You might be sad about the lack of numbers, but definitely not sad about the lack of racing. There's been plenty of action so far here already within the first 30 laps. And if you have been enjoying all of the action here at Talladega on Simracersworld TV, make sure to give the stream a little like, give us all a follow, do all of that wonderful stuff. It lets us know that you're enjoying what we're putting out.
And go visit the sponsor of this week's race as well. Of course, Dynamixx Racing Simulators. There's a link to their website and all of their wondrous sim racing builds in the description below. As we're back on board, the rearwards facing cam from Robbie Lundgren here. What we're seeing is a compact field still here. Of course, from aside from Damien van Immerseel, it seems he was a little bit off at the start of the race, Edward. What do you reckon? Do you think it's a technical issue with this clutch pedal, or just maybe a bit of a lack of confidence in the car coming around at these speeds?
I think it's all about confidence here at Talladega. That's the one thing you have to have in abundance at a super speedway, is the confidence in the car. And if you don't have that, unfortunately, Hassa, you'll be getting left behind. As we actually see a bit of a gap starting to form in behind. But Daleman, you can see Daleman ahead of John Tusting now. The gap extending to about half a second, which might not seem like a lot in a road course sense, but here in NASCAR, there's a chasm between the two of them.
There is indeed, and it's in terms of distance a relatively large gap. The thing is that the slipstream will still be well alive here for John Tusting, so in theory he should be able to close that gap just by going a little bit harder on the loud pedal. Otherwise, I'm sure Matty Sufi is going to be wanting to come through quite quickly indeed to make sure that he doesn't get stuck in behind, but they've already closed back about a 1/10 of a second to the group up ahead. You can see everybody closing up real quickly and really sharpening their attention here. Really, no one wants to be left behind.
For Robbie Lundgren up at the front still, holding firm. John Tustin, like you say, has been able to close that gap down now. Just briefly coming under 4/10 of a second for extending just a touch through the bends and then closing back up once more when they get onto the straight and narrow. So coming up to the tri-oval now. Robbie Lundgren keeps first place. But now, Hasse, do you think the drivers might start to wonder what they'll do in the pit stops?
I think so. It'll be time for that round soon, I think. We'll see just how long they can run on the fuel. But certainly anyone who's able to... Yeah, sorry, go on.
The lap times have fallen quite dramatically last lap. The last lap they've, I think, dropped from what they were to what they are now by around about 0.3 of a second now into the 50s, into the 50.3s all across the board. Whereas before we were seeing times in the high 49. So definitely, I think the tyres starting to wane just a touch. We're going to see them come across the line now. And the lap times, I think, are going to stay pretty similar, actually, Hasse. So that could be time for drivers to make the change once the fuel comes out, get some new tyres on board.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that is a good call indeed.
Well, that was two. So then the last lap, so they're definitely feeling the effect of the tyres now. Is actually first driver into the pits is Damien van Immerziel.
Yeah, Van Immerziel's in, but he is a lap down, so it'll be a tough call for him to come back on. Might be the problem here. Oh, there are a lot of drivers are peeling off here, and a lot of undercuts trying to be performed here from the lower ends of the grid. We will do our best to cover what we can from pit lane, but it's not a lot we can see, is it, Only Edward, from these angles here as they... Oh, well, that's Van Immerziel leaving the pits. Looked a little bit strange to me. There's testing, yes. And here is the group of cars still running out there.
Lap time is even slower now, 50.8 all across the board. So lap times are definitely dropping down as Robbie Lundgren comes into the pits from the lead of this race here at Talladega. Robbie Lundgren. Oh, I think he was coming into the pits. He seems to have dropped back quite significantly.
He is coming into the pits here.
I think something must have happened actually on the run into the pits because he lost those positions well before coming into the pit lane.
Well, we'll see. I think we can recall...
Kimber Hayet and Henrik de Grave were right behind him. They're already in the pits, so we're going to have a look here just to see what happens.
Oh, look at Behate there. He just... I think he drops down a little bit too early, Edward, and just... You can see everybody else drops down later, so that's what it looks like to me. He decided to go in. Came in a little bit early. And De Grave is already leaving here. Lundgren's still stationary. But he's also just come to his stop. Got a longer pit lane time than anyone else, basically. This is going to hurt Robbie Lundgren's chances big time here tonight, I'm afraid.
Yeah, from the lead of the race, it's all gone wrong in this pit stop phase. Not entirely sure what happened, Mr. Lundgren, but whatever it wasn't great, let's put it that way. Not the way the race was going to be going, I think. If you're a fan of Robbie Lundgren, unfortunately, he's dropping back, potentially dropping out of the fight We'll see how all the others come through, of course. Eyes focused on driver who's currently leading at the moment, Bram van Uitven, who's yet to pit so far.
Yeah, indeed. Wondering what happened to John Barnes, who for some reason now is almost a lap down while still having done his pit stop. I think he's taken tires here, Edward. He's had a pit stop that was about 40 seconds slower than everybody else out there.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see John Barnes opting for tires. This could be a strategy that might work out in his, or maybe in his favour, maybe not. We'll see how the race unfolds. I'd be very surprised if drivers go through this entire race without taking tires. But of course, if you're racing in a pack, getting some draft off of one another, your lap times will be shorter, will be faster. John Barnes is hoping to make up those gains, though, in terms of his tyre life, and maybe suffer a little bit more towards the end of the race instead of focusing on making gains early on. Now, coming out of pit road, Bram van Uitven for Dynamixx Racing Simulators. Is he going to come through into lead? No, he isn't, as blitzing on by. We see Kim Hayet and Henrik de Grave at Flemish Simsport working very nicely up towards the front of the field. In behind Simracersworld, they are close in hot pursuit.
Yeah, it's Flemish 1-2. Daleman and Sufi ahead of him now is getting back into contention. That's a good pit stop round for Matty Sufi, it has to be said. And a relatively short stop as well, a pit time of 14.83 seconds. That's a half a second better than De Grave. Almost a second better than Beheit. But it's now a 2v2, something very familiar, it has to be said, here at Talladega as well. Where we've seen some rather ridiculous examples of drivers basically being pushed around. Well, as we're seeing now, just in the final, and what was 4 teams with 2 car seats, so basically 8 cars pushing one another around towards the end of the race, and that is what gave us that 0.002 of a second finish as well. Turn.
So now Matthew Sufi trying to lead the 2 Simracersworld esports cars up in front of the 2 Flemish Simsports. Teamwork, trying to make the dream work for these 2, but will it work out, or is it going to be a nightmare for one of these 2 teams? As there goes John Barnes, actually, for Quantum Racing, now getting lapped. Driver that was leading this race, let's not forget, in the first phase. Definitely think, like you say, he has opted to take tyres, but it's not quite worked out.
Oh, it hasn't worked out, and I think the problem for Barnes is that even with his fresh tires, if he's not in the slipstream, he's going to be with no chance of keeping up with the rest of them. I mean, we can see the qualifying laps being around the 52-second mark, while the best race laps already well into the 49s. And that, I think, says it all. Of course, he'll be well and comfortable in the slipstream of the cars here, but he is indeed a lap down. So not the right call to have made there for John Barnes, and he's going to need some sort of incident and get the lucky dog, I think, in order to really come back here.
Yeah, I think you're right about that, Hester. It's unfortunate for John Barnes, the race not going the way he'd been hoping. However, I have noticed drivers are closing up to the front 4 pack now. John Barnes, having dropped back, is actually providing the slipstream to Adam Wright. If we have a look back to the BSTV esports car, you can see the bridging of the gap done by John Barnes has actually allowed all of these drivers to close back up. And again, we can see another car going off. I think that's again Damien van Immerziel staying to the high line out of the way of the drivers. Adam Wright closing the pack up now. Now getting that gap to Bart Delman under a second.
So it's not only John Barnes who's had some issues on the pit stop round here. Same goes for Robbie Lundgren, who now finds himself 28 seconds off the rear of Bram van Aerten. He'll be basically without a chance of coming back into his leading position. So it's been a strange race, and I think it'll be a strange race all the way to the line here. That doesn't mean it won't be interesting here. Look at that, Adam Wright goes immediately for the bump draft. Now they have to be careful. They might start buffeting each other a little bit too much. A few cars already aiming for the high line here. You're trying to take advantage of a bit of momentum, but as we saw earlier in the race, Edward, I have a hard time really seeing it work out here.
Yeah, it might be tricky, but of course with the tyres on John Barnes, he could help out the guys on the higher line. You can go just that little bit harder on that higher line. And seeing behind how close the cars are, just trying to fight together. As Paul Gosling has actually set the fastest lap of the race so far. So even though the tyres, he still kept the same pair of boots on that he started the race on. Lap times, they're really getting quicker. So I think actually the clouds have come out and the track's cooled down just a touch.
Yeah, that might be it. Cars will be... I think the tires are still fine. It's also so much to do with the drafting that if you get a bit of a space to drive into, that could be the fastest lap for you right there and then. So there are some different dynamics at play than what we usually see here at the super speedways. Might have been, and I'm thinking from John Barnes that it could have been a mistake having the tires on as he came into the pits.
I'm just thinking, Hassel, about that, and depending on what everyone else does, it could be an inspired choice. He might come through, win the race, and we'll all look like a fool. But at the moment, yeah, I don't think this is the... it's been the right call for John Barnes to do what he's done so far.
I think it's gonna be the latter of the two, because at least judging from the lap times, this last lap was a 50 dead, which is not too far from what the front of the pack is doing. But that's of course because he's on the rear end of this bunch right about now, which is what I was failing to take into consideration there. But indeed, worth taking into consideration, if we do have any sort of incident that will bring out the yellow flag, that could be all in favor of John Barnes, who is now trying to unlap himself. And look who he's taking along for the ride there. So he's using that extra grip in order to get himself in front, and of course the help from Adam Wright as well. But he does have those fresh tires. Should give him that little bit of an advantage that with the added draft from behind could help out indeed. He needs to stay careful though. He needs to stay really vigilant. Not make any sudden moves basically.
That's the key, is vigilance. Here on Super Speedway, you need to be committed, brave, but also totally aware of what's going on around you. We're seeing cars on the inside having to do exactly that. They can't rush out too high. They have to be forced very narrow. But the cars on the high line aren't forcing them narrow enough. You can see plenty of space being afforded. That's, I think, the best shot cars on the high line have, is to try and squeeze those on the sort of lower line into a shallow, very close to the apron run, and see if they can use that to their advantage, just going around the outside a bit.
Yeah. I'm still not a believer of the high line. Here's Robbie Lundgren. He'll be hoping to get picked up by the aft end of this pack. There he is. As we're closing in on the halfway distance on this race here, Edward, it's gonna about 40 minutes into it, so we're looking at an hour and 20 minutes or so in the end. And I think predictions of a long chess game that that might just turn into a bit of fireworks at the end of it. I'm gonna make my regular usual cycling analogy here and say this is the NASCAR equivalent of a sprint stage in the Tour de France, where all the action happens at the pointy end of the thing.
I prefer the chess analogy. This is going to be one of the fastest chess matches you've ever seen, isn't it, Asa? All the guys rocketing their way through the Talladega Super Speedway, traveling upwards of 300 kilometers an hour up through the tri-oval. You can see at the moment no real positions being made, but they are still able to keep it there or thereabouts as a two-wide train. I'm surprised to see that Paul Gosling isn't opting for that lower line, especially now considering that drivers are moving things about, and actually you can see the 64 car going to the outside line now, opting to see what works.
It's getting a bit of push there
going to help from Mathieu Soufi. He's actually getting pushed through. Is he going to get pushed into the lead?
Might just about there from John Barnes on the outside, but unable. He needs to be able to come down across on the 86 and close down the inside line. I think he's got it now. He just needs to close it off. He needs to seal the deal as quickly as he can. He's too late. And the 86 comes
run
back.
Out the corner.
Yeah, I think that's true.
He was waiting to get the best run out the corner, and now you can see him trying to slip through. Or is he actually going to prefer to have a car in behind? Is this why he's sticking to the higher line? There's bump drafting going on. He's waited too long. All of a sudden, the two Flemish Simracersworld cars working in cahoots. Eric de Grave pushing along Kimber Hayet. They're keeping it too wide now all the way through.
So that's a nice defensive move from the Flemish Sim Sports team there, and the 86, 87 cars to defend themselves collectively. Here comes Adam Wright, wanting to get a piece of it as well. This time around, Soufi's well and clear, and he could indeed swing down ahead. He could have done so multiple times now, but somehow he opts to stay on the high line with John Barnes. Maybe wanting to get Barnes clear as well. As Barnes jumps down, he goes ahead now. That's going to leave Soufi in a bad position here as Adam Wright goes for it. Almost cuts off the 86. And now we've got a bit of action kicking off here, Edward. For the first time, it's been a few seemingly quiet laps leading into the last 5-1-0 has been really interesting, and a lot of stuff all of a sudden happening.
Yeah, and you can see actually around the outside, Soufi's dropping back. He's not able to find that run of form. Now, he could have easily slotted in at the front of the field, but chose not to. Maybe he doesn't want to lead the race at this midway stage. Maybe he wants to rather lead right at the death and see if that will work in his favour. As we have now gone past halfway mark, point of no return has been reached and surpassed now as we see Paul Gosling. What a drive he's having back up through the field. Now into 5th place. Almost 4th if he can get through on the Simracersworld car to the outside line.
That would be incredible indeed. Andrew Gosling came from the very end of the grid, and now we have the drivers who sort of started at the head of the field, except for John Barnes, but in their rightful positions. Barnes, though, did manage to gain the lap back, which in the end isn't going to do too much difference, but he's going to feel like he's back in the lead, at least here, John Barnes. Just goes to show that even with fresh tires, it's going to be basically impossible to break away from anyone here.
Does mean, of course, if the caution flag gets waved all of a sudden and he's still out there, he won't need to get waved by, as the lucky doggy will be able to start right at the back of the train, not worry about being a lap down. So John Barnes in a very good spot.
isn't a lap down, so he'll not even be the one to get the lucky dog.
Well,
that
no,
would go to Robbie Lundgren, yeah.
He won't need to rely on that. He'll be able just to stop at the back because he's gonna as well. You've got
that's true. That's
going
true.
to be probably waved around
I think
as
it's
the lucky dog.
Robbie Lundgren there, I think.
It's going to be Robbie Lundgren as well. So instead, it's probably working more in the favour of John Barnes, just to stay in front. Should there be a caution, and at least bank on being on the lead lap.
That's a good point. That is a good point, although things haven't been pointing in the direction of many cautions here tonight. We have got just
the moment
under.
There wasn't a hassle where we thought there could have been, especially with that biting too wide. I think they have, though, like you said, cooled down.
Yeah, indeed. They've settled in, and seems most of the changes now are going to happen on the pit stops. Was that Jon Tusting just taking a dip underneath the yellow line there? Adam Wright on his high side now, wanting to go around the outside. He gets awfully close, but of course he wants to take advantage of whatever side draft he can. He's got Robbie Lundgren with him for company up high. Now let's see if they can do anything there with the slingshot around the outside. It seems quite difficult to pull it off. With no one in front of you, I'm sorry, but just to say, with no one in front of you to sort of assist further up, it's going to be difficult. Oh, but Adam Wright, can he find the space? He does have the space, and he is willing to take it, or is he? Oh!
He's got to carry on. There's lots of action going on around the outside. He does love that high line, doesn't he, Adam Wright? It seems to work out for him, though. He puts himself in good positions. He's just not been having the luck so far. Fighting wheel to wheel with Paul Gosling. He's got to get the inside line. A wonderful slipstream from the cars behind, and Adam Wright, I think, thinks better off going outside, and then slots down, gets a good run out of the corner, then goes to the outside, hit with a wall of air as he comes now into next bend. Good run around the outside, but then mid-corner he slows down a bit. Just doesn't seem to be able to work for Adam Wright, and all of a sudden now, down the inside, holding very firm, is Jon Tusting.
And this is basically slipstream versus bump draft. As you can see, Robbie Lundgren really giving a few pushes along the way there. It really seems to aid out big time. Look at Adam Wright all of a sudden passing half the field here. And if he can slot in somewhere with that level of bump drafting, if you really time it well, you can really make a difference.
Yeah, and it's actually working out now because the air that he's pushing from the front of his car pushes the air onto the rear wing of the car he's racing with, and that's what slows them down and allows that side draft to work in his favour. So Adam Wright, using good car positioning, you can see all of a sudden, because he's now side by side the 24 of Bart Daleman is dropping back, even though he's in the slipstream of the car in front.
So for the first time, they really get the bump draft to work there on the outside. Haven't really seen it. I think it's a question also of them going as close as they are, because they don't go that high. They go for the, well, you could say the middle groove. You'd be hard pressed to fit in a car on top of these at the moment. It's not really the place to go 3 wide. Any place is rarely the place to go 3 wide, at least successfully. But with all that said, it does open up some interesting perspectives of what I think will unfold in the last, 20 laps or so. Is where this race could just get very, very interesting all of a sudden. From being, well, interesting enough, it could all just kick off, because there are a few drivers in here will be hungry to make up all those positions. Adam Wright.
Yeah, he's sealing the deal, sealing onto 4th place. So he's made a good run around the outside. He's made a gap and gone for it. So he's slotting in behind now. Bart Daleman is further in front. I think actually Kimber Hayek was trying to find a way through on John Barnes.
That's interesting if that's going to be...
It looked for a moment that was going to happen.
John Barnes, who's found himself several times this season being taken out while lapping back markers, now being the back marker, indeed. I'm doing my best, Mew. Keep my cycling A game on point. But in all honesty, with all the teamwork and the sort of sprint finish nature of these tracks, I do think there is a lot of comparison to be made with both track cycling, but also a road cycling sprint stage. Of course, I'll take it easy. Cycling analogy. So do wish, but there is a lot of parallels to be drawn, I think, and there might even be some wisdom to be found in the mindset that's sort of used the cycling world here. Certainly, the patience needed to sort of make sure that you get to the end in a good position. Now, there's been a gap opening up here down to John Tusting as well.
Yeah, is Adam right? He's actually looking for a move on Bart Daleman. There's plenty of things all happening at once here, Hasse.
So Adam Wright, having moved on Bart Daleman, Daleman then switching back to stay in front of Matty Sufi, and then John Tusting with Paul Gosling and Robbie Lundgren in between him has some kind of issue here. I want to see what happened. So this is Gosling. Oh! Robbie Lundgren manages to keep it going,
kept it pinned. Wow.
Kept it pinned. He kept it under control. He suffered a bit of damage. Here is John Tusting underneath the yellow line as well. And Paul Gosling...
I was going to say, this is terrible for Paul Gosling, because he's dropped back now from all those in front, getting in a squabble with Robbie Lundgren, who is a lap down, trying to unlap himself, but by squabbling with both himself and John Tusting, has allowed the rest of the cars to clear a path up in front. As actually Adam right now, I've been watching all of this, has been passed back now from the two Simracersworld esports drivers. So Adam Wright holding on to 5th place, but I'll tell you what, he does go for the moves around the outside, tries to make it work. Sometimes it doesn't quite go in his favour. In fact, on that occasion, it looked like he was actually conceding the place.
I think he was as well, and Sufi didn't quite get there. But that's these tactical considerations that the drivers gotta make here. They might want to come from far back.
John Barnes now is dropping back. He was obviously on the lead lap, but now has dropped down.
It'll be hard find to make any real meaning of that. See the sense in being on the lead lap, that much is certain, but we'll see if it'll be whatever works out for John Barnes in the end. It's still Kimbe Haight now leading the race ahead of his teammate Hendrik de Grave, and then Bart Daleman and Matty Sufi, 4 Belgians in the 4 first places. And one thing I'd really imagine while racing at a track like this, in a car like this, that we're keeping it pinned for that long, is that it becomes a little bit monotonous having to listen to an engine note that really doesn't change all that much.
Be like driving an electric car, isn't it?
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much.
Oh dear. But yeah, it's I guess it would be a bit monotonous, but when you've got so much action going around you, it's difficult to get bored, I think, when you're here at Talladega going over 300 kilometers an hour. I think there's definitely more boring things you could be doing with your time.
Absolutely so, and I think one thing is driving around here in the sim, but I think the forces that'll be exerted on your body, should you happen to ever get to do this in real life, I think it's something quite different. It's certainly something that I would absolutely love to try out. I think NASCAR machines are some absolute beasts to drive. In terms of just the raw power they're packing under the hood. Now with the downforce added on the next-gen machines, as you can see as well, those diffusers, they are brand spanking new for NASCAR and for this season, as you all well know. Giving us some slightly different racing, although it doesn't seem to have changed all that much. That's a slight blink from De Graave, so let's hope his connection is all right. Have to see about that. Of course, a word of thanks to our sponsor for this week's race, Dynamixx Racing Simulators, and you can check out a link to their webpage in the description below. That said, these, well, 4 or 5 drivers here, it's basically the top 5 still in with a shout here, at least from what it looks like here at the moment.
Yeah, you can see them all racing together. Interestingly enough as well, it's closing in on the time where we can see the pit stops coming through. Obviously, when we get to, well, obviously a lot of the drivers pitted on lap 35, then they'll pit again on lap 70, and then another 35 laps should see them safely through to lap 105. So that is seemingly the plan for most of the drivers, to pit at equal increments. Some drivers might try and extend a stint maybe by a couple. Some drivers might try and shorten one by a couple and try for an undercut. There's all different aspects coming through for the moment. But it's still Kimber Hayet, Eric de Graave, Flemish Sim Sports 1-2. And then Bart Dowman, Matthew Sufi in behind. And this has been a very good drive, actually, from these two Flemish Sim Sport drivers, having worked together brilliantly so far this race. But can they hold on for just a little bit longer? That's going to be the question.
We're on to lap 70. So we're approaching the final third of the race by now. And as such, actually we're just about into the final third of the race. We're getting ever closer though, however, to what I believe is going to be the final round of pit stops. They're going to be right upon us as well. Van Immerseel is in now. And that means it's going to be over the next few laps that we'll see just how this final bit of this race is going to unfold. This next round of pit stops sure is going to be quite decisive, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very crucial on where all these drivers come out for that final run, that final stint up to the checkered here at Talladega. Kimber Hayet, he's going to basically be the signal bearer for what they're doing in terms of strategy over at Flemish Sim Sports. What would you do, Hasta, if you were in their camp? Would you opt to go early, go later, or would you try and maybe see what the cars behind do and then do the opposite, do the same?
No, I think I'd stretch it as far as possible in this situation, because with the current strategy they're on, they're only just about running enough laps to make sure that this will be their last pit stop. And looking at the lap times here, Edward, we're running low 51s at the moment. Gosling and Tusting doing a little bit quicker on the last lap. However, they're about 5.75 seconds off this, the front at least, of this lead group, if you will. So I think we'll see them all coming in here, if not on the end of this lap, then at the end of the next lap. We're and just about here. And then the SRW esports machines are running past it here. Daleman and Sufi opting to see if they can squeeze out that extra lap, go that little bit quicker around, maybe come out in front.
Yeah, Bart Dowman and Matthew Sufi staying out as Kimber Hayet and Eric de Graave come in, along with Adam Wright as well. can see the 777, the car that was once leading the race. John Barnes opting for his stop. All of the drivers coming in, essentially, apart from Bart Derman and Matthew Sufi. Is this going to be an inspired decision, or will it just be unfortunate? Look at that! The 27, Adam Wright, has an amazing pit stop. Gets out in front of Henrik de Grave and Kimber Hayet. Brilliant stuff from Adam Wright there for the BSTV esports driver. Wow. Now, question marks are going to be raised. Can Simracersworld cover him off?
That is the question to be answered in the end. It also depends how much help Adam Wright is going to get from the Flemish cars now. Which, of course, is going to be in everybody's interest in this trio. As we'll see these two drivers pitting in, I think, at the end of this lap. And now they're running into traffic. And that could be a blessing. It could be a curse. It depends if they get around Van Immerseel. Oh, it's a curse indeed. Because he's going to block off the pit lane for Daleman. He needs to go in, and he needs to go now. Like a child who's
He's
been
not going to be happy, is he? Bart Derman is going to be furious.
This is like family dad. Oh, Daleman touches the grass on the pit entrance, which I think says a lot about the red mist that might have descended upon him. It's like a father pulling into a highway petrol station at the very, very last moment. Because the kid in the back so needs to take a wheeze. And in they are, and they're taking tires as well here. So that might be a major problem, as they're going to lose half a minute, and no way they're gaining that sort of time back on De Grave and Behait. And that's going to leave the Flemish cars and Adam Wright, the trio, battling it out for the race win here tonight, I think.
So,
oh, Sufi's out. Oh. Sufi's out already. Look at this. So it's only Daleman who's taking tires.
I think Daleman's actually serving a slowdown, a penalty for being too fast in the pit lane. I think that's what's going on with Bart Daleman. The cars just took too much in, was frustrated by Damien Van Immerseel, who just couldn't get out of the way, or didn't get out of the way, rather. And Bart Daleman serving a penalty. His race is, well, definitely not going the way he was hoping.
Now the Grave cruises around the outside of Matty Sufi. Alongside him, Kim Behait. Of course, Van Eifden, I'm afraid, is a lap down as well. On the tail of those Flemish cars. Sufi needs to really pick up the trail of these cars as well. He'll be Adam Wright fodder in the end. And actually, another little anecdote from the archives of Talladega history, Edward, is from the very first race here at Talladega, where the at the time newly paved track was so bumpy and with such a rough surface that the tires supplied basically got torn to shreds. Now, they did fix the tire problem, but not before, well, most of the field, that was all of the NASCAR field except for 3 drivers, pulled out of the race, and the NASCAR organizers had to pull in a lot of lower class drivers from and their cars as well, practically making it a NASCAR multi-class race. Only 3 competitive cars competing at the top of the field, so they cursed from the very start. Off to a rocky start at Talladega. Been a rocky road for some of the drivers here tonight as well. And those opting to go through on one set of tires without changing, that seems to have been the longest straw. Draw out for tonight here. Adam Wright is still in a position where he could find himself taking top spots. And what a fairy tale that would be. Evening to Anton Dupin, welcome to you, and nice to have you along as well. Indeed, Flemish in the lead, but hotly contested by another Belgian, and then a sole Brit PSTV Esports, of course, in that 27. Adam Wright.
Dear me, that was definitely a lot of excitement there in that pit stop base, Hassett. And now we see Adam Wright trying to find a way through, trying to close up, get past Mathieu Soufi. In between second and third as well, Kim Bahia and Mathieu Soufi, we do have Brian Van Uytven for Dynamixx Racing Simulator. You can see the Tow-Mater car in the mix. Unfortunately not fighting for position though, so I think, well, Mathieu Soufi might be hoping him to get out of the way.
Yeah, it's but it's a hard, it's such a hard balance really, because the lap drivers want to get back on the lead lap, and we've seen it before. It can really make a difference, but at the same time, the drivers that are actually battling for position would certainly want them to get out of the way. It's and of course it's not in the rules that they have to get out of the way, which sort of makes it difficult to enforce anything upon them as well.
Yeah, I suppose it's just you'd like to see all the cars racing together, fighting for the lead, and be all together, not having to worry about back markers in an ideal world, and having a good clean fight. But unfortunately, this isn't such a scenario, is it? As we have Henrik de Grave now up at the front, leading his teammate by, well, less than 1/10 of a second. Such are the margins here at Talladega. Going to go around now a slow car on the inside, and that is unfortunately 24 of Bart Daleman.
Yeah, but he'll join in, I think, and see if he can give a helping hand to his teammate Mathieu Soufi. That could be the help Soufi needs in passing Bart Dale, or I'm sorry, Bram van Uytven, of course. With the help of Bart Daleman, that might just be a possibility. We'll have to see just how that works out for him.
Well, also, we are aware of the fact that Adam Wright is there, and we know that Adam Wright has been very keen on trying to send moves around the outside, go to that high line. And is it going to work out for him? That's the other question. Into that high line. He's seen some success in recent times, of course he's had a car behind bumping him all the way along. He doesn't have that this time. He is actually, I think, just at the back of this train for the lead. Yes, he is.
Yeah, and that's where Adam Wright, I think, on more than one occasion tonight, has found himself in trouble as well. He's had to rely on the goodwill of his fellow drivers, and maybe hoping to team up with some of the other one car teams, if you will. But it's the only one left that doesn't have a teammate, since that now Daleman, even though he's a lap down, still very much in there and lending that all-important hand to Mathieu Soufi. We've got 24 laps to go, and we're really starting to get into the finale here. We might see the moves start to happen, well, from now and all the way to the checkered flag. What we've seen before, Edward, at some of these really fast super speedways, is that you can't really wait too long with initiating that move, and often you need to do so 5-10 laps from the checkered flag in the end if you want to have any success with it.
Yeah, and you really want to just be going all the way for it right in those last few moments before the checkered. Don't want any cautions, you don't want any of this business, you just want a good clean fight. With 23 laps to go, that could be what we'll see here in Talladega as Henrik de Grave stays in front. Just keep ahead of Kim Bahia. Mathieu Soufi still hasn't been able to get through on Brian Van Uytven, so he's staying in third, but fourth in this train. And his teammate, well, they were not able to really help him out just yet.
No, not really. But they might just be keeping their gunpowder dry, seeing if Daleman can get a bit of a run, and then maybe
Look to the outside bump
just
draft.
yeah, exactly. Maybe just the question of see if they can just time that correctly. But now look at Adam Wright, who's trying his luck to get around Daleman. But once he gets to that high side with no draft, it becomes so difficult to stay close enough to catch the side draft from the car ahead. Or the car that you're side by side with. Adam Wright's gonna try it again. He's getting a little impatient back there, I think. Not that you wouldn't understand it as we're coming into the final 20 laps of the race. He has to move somehow. But I would expect the Simracersworld esports cars to move at some point. And if Wright starts to squabble around with Bart Daleman here, that just makes it all the more difficult for the SRW esports team to organize something in together. And if they could organize something, it would be a perfect opportunity for Adam Wright to tackle along the back of that and see if he can use that to his own advantage as well.
Yeah, this could work very much in his favour, but the thing is, he's got so many more cars in front that he needs to get through and get past, and Talladega, while it is a super speedway, you're flat out all the way through. It seems that going on the higher line hasn't been working out as easily as some drivers might have been hoping for. So we come on board now with Adam Wright. Look at the run he gets from coming that far back. Starts up slightly mid-corner or mid-bend. And gets a brilliant drive. Has to lift. There's the slightest lift from Adam Wright. Means he does have some good pace. He's going to try and bump all the cars up ahead. So you can see a slight tap onto the back. Or Matthew Sufi. Or actually not onto the back of Matthew Sufi, onto the back rather of Bart Daleman. But nowhere through. No cars opting to go to the outside, to go to the inside to do anything eccentric. As we come now with 20 laps to go. It's going to be 19 when they come across the line now. Drivers, you can see, starting to move about a little bit more on the road now.
There is the line at such a late point as well. So if you get a run coming out of that final corner on that final lap, you can still really try and make a charge for it there. It's all about timing. And mind you, everybody here is lifting here and there just to make sure that they're not hitting each other with too much force, with too much impetus. You see the bump comes in from low. They're trying to get it lined up. Or maybe Van Uyften is just carrying the bumps along to the Flemish cars up ahead. Lord knows. Still is sort of locked in position here as we're well into the final 20 laps now. These two SRW esports drivers are going to see if they can get the better of the two Flemish sim sports drivers currently at the top of the standings.
Yeah, very good job, aren't they, so far? Up towards the top end of the field. Can they stay there? That's the thing. They need to work together. Kimber Hayat is going to have to be very active in behind if he wants to help out his teammate, or if Kimber Hayat rather take the victory. I'm going to see a bit squabbling between teammates. I think here at Talladega it's best just to secure at least one car winning, so I think the focus has got to be on Henrik de Grave staying in front, Kimber Hayat focusing on all of those in behind, and maybe Bram van Uyften could be trying to help out potentially. Dynamixx Racing Simulators, obviously not affiliated with Flemish Sim Sports, but just by notion of existing third on the road, not third in terms of sort of race position, he's going to be in the way of Matthew Sufi.
At some point, I think Van Uyften, when we get into the final laps here and there, I think he's going to realize, okay, there's no point in me sitting in this position. I might as well just go to the back of the group, at least just go to the high line, lift ever so slightly, open up the cars in behind. Now look at this, however, because Daleman and Adam Wright, something has happened down here that we haven't necessarily seen, but it's allowed a gap to open up to Matty Sufi, of course, my apologies. But it's all gone against Adam Wright, who's now trying to pump draft his way back up Sufi and the pack here up ahead. Do you think Sufi's trying to line it up now and trying to get that run that might just take him past on Van Uyften there?
He could do, but he needs cars in behind, which he just doesn't have. Adam Wright dropping back, seemingly out of the equation, as his teammate Bart Daleman. Not what Matthew Sufi was hoping for, but he's going to have to try something, anything, to get up through. If he can at least make up one place with, well, 15 laps about to go, then it should be able to help him out. But then it will be just one lone Simracersworld esports driver against two Flemish Simsports.
Yeah, it's going to be tough odds for Matty Sufi, and it might just be the points available to him for third today. We'll see just what happens. Until now, Van Uyften has been keen on helping out the Flemish cars, assisting with the bunt drafting wherever possible. I think though Sufi is holding back on his run. We'll be trying to time it perfectly now. 15 laps to go. The gap to Adam Wright and Bart Daleman has opened up. It's 2.4 seconds now, which means that Adam Wright is going to have a very hard time getting back into this. And look at this. Here comes the group with Paul Gosling and John Barnes. And they're charging into the gap here. It's coming down. It's not coming down quickly. It's 2.6, around 2.6 seconds now. But they're all really helping one another along down here. And it's John Barnes leading it at the moment, but it's all sort of for Paul Gosling. And John Tusting, of course, in particular, his teammate. Further down here, Adam Wright. Oh, he doesn't want to get dislodged from this one as well. What has happened here? Oh, this is quite a few minutes ago now, so that's that says a little about the amount of overtakes that we've had here over the last few laps of this race. I got confused there for a second with an incident, or not an incident, but an overtake that happened well 15 minutes ago at the last pit stop. Anyway, that aside, we are coming towards the final stages. We're well in the final stages of the race, but we're coming towards the final 10 laps of this race here at Talladega. And we've certainly had a fast race indeed, and I think this race could go down as the fastest average speed in the history of the SRW NASCAR Cup Series. Might have someone to do the calculations on that, but interestingly here, Paul Gosling, and he has another car in front of him. They're really charging into the gap here, Edward, and it's now down to a second, up to Matty Sufi, who's right there, and if they catch the slipstream, you know, the string of cars is going to be right back into it within the final 10 laps, and what a finish we're going to have all of a sudden here. What a finish that unfortunately I won't be there for, Hester. Like you said, I had to come in a little bit last minute. Unfortunately, I have things to do, places to go, people to see in around about a little while, so I need to get up and moving. But Hester, what a race it has been at Talladega, and you can see that the pack has now closed up in behind to Matthew Sufi. Look at him go. You can see actually it's the nature of the tyres for John Barnes. He's got so much fresher rubber compared to those around that by going on the highline, he's just towing all of those along. This could be absolutely monumental here. Oh my word. There was almost a collision as we saw Matthew Sufi trying to hold on to third place. Yeah, indeed. Van Immerseel gets out the way. Now we're going to go back up with the two leaders. And Van Uyften might find himself in the way. And look at the chaos unfolding in behind here now, as they're all trying to find their way around on John Barnes. And that's Adam Wright finding a partner in crime, if you will, as well. Quickly goes to the high side as they try their best to gain the run on the fellas in front. They had such a good cooperation going there. We're joined by Frederick van Eekhoven in chat as well, a veteran of this series. Look at it now. They're flying to the tail of Sufi. Barnes goes to the outside. That looks like someone just passing the relay to Adam Wright, saying, all right, mate, I've driven you this far now. You're back into it. Go give it your best shot. Which certainly he is. And certainly there's still time for anything to happen. Sophie thinks about moving on Van Uyften. Thinks twice though as he recognizes that Adam Wright is basically right underneath his bumper. Hendrik de Graaf is still leading, and it could still be the Flemish cars running away with it in the end. For the second time this season, it looks like we might just go from green to checkered without anything interrupting the race in between it. At this point, you wonder if Van Uyften has to sort of just consider maybe moving out of the way, but it's also hard now to do that in a safe manner because it's all kicking off in behind him. While he might be the biggest assistance for the Flemish cars at the moment. There's a bit of a check being sent across Flanders here tomorrow. I'm not quite sure about that. A great big thanks to Edward May, of course, for joining me here tonight, as Edward has had to take an early leave. And what a part of the race he seems to be going on to miss here. What a flying finale we seem to be in for. Paul Gosling, you have to wonder, can him and John Tusting pull out from this? Daleman goes into the pits. That means, of course, that Lundgren goes past back there. John Barnes with a bit of a swinger that opens up for Paul Gosling. But I think Gosling goes a little bit too high here. Oh, he's going to get a bit of aid. Oh, and he collects! He collects John Barnes! And they both go in the wall. But they're on the apron and it's not brought out. The yellow flag. And drama at this late stage of the race. From out of nowhere, basically. If it wasn't enough with the battle for top positions. But it's thrown off John Tusting in the end. And he's going to have a very hard time, I'm afraid, regaining the rear end of that train up ahead. And once again, all those drivers who came into contact, it's only really Adam Wright who is in a position to reap anything from it. Now we'll see De Graaf behind Sophie and Adam Wright in between him. In the middle of the sandwich is the 284 of Bram van Uyften, a lap down. If they had headlights, I'm sure Sophie would be flashing left, right, and center, trying to get a bit of sympathy from Bram van Uyften, but he's getting none of it at the moment. And as such, himself and Adam Wright seem to be in a tough position here. 5 laps to go now. John Barnes has had to jump to the pits, I'm afraid, following the incident before. And strike of tough luck there at the very end of the race. It's the flight sim boys at the front of the field here. That might be where the practice really comes in. Formation flying. I have to say, it's a bit of a late stage to get pulled into a side track here, but I've been really wanting to get into flight sim stuff as well as of late. There's Bart Daleman. Oh, could that be at this late stage of the race? Not only in sim. Oh, wow. So a literal flying squad here indeed. Matty Sufi, he'll be wanting to squeeze a little bit more out of his car. There's no wake turbulence to be afraid of here. Although it's not clean air either. A bit of a bump from Adam Wright. Maybe the fact that you get the bubble dump, the double bump, the bubble dump. That's not what... the double bump going. That was great indeed. Him and Matthew fly in real life as well. That's quite cool. I've never been out flying in... I've been flying many times as a passenger on, but I'd really love to go on like a small aircraft in some sort. And what I'd really like to go out on a helicopter. I think that would be just great. Somewhere in Norway. Anyway, crazy stories aside, and all that stuff, we're into the final 2 laps, and Hendrik de Grave is indeed flying ahead of the field. I don't know how much more soup I can cook on the bones thrown to me by Anton Dupin, but I'll do my best. Yeah. Oh, that'll go with me for a long time, that one, Robert, but it's not a bad one indeed here. I think we're about to come on to the last lap indeed. Oh, look at that on the outside. Here comes the move. Van Hoefden chosen to get out of the way at the very last moment, and here goes Sufi to the inside. He's gonna get past on Behade. He must. Oh, he gets swept, and Sufi's out. No. And Adam Wright has claimed second place, and he might just claim the win. He's got a huge run here on Hendrik de Grave. De Grave goes high to defend. Adam Wright on the inside. Oh, this is edgy stuff indeed. And the line. It's gonna come up here. It's gonna come up. Not a second too early for Hendrik de Grave, who takes the win ahead of Adam Wright. Kim Behate gets third on the day ahead of John Tusting. And then Matty Sufi, who will be not at all pleased, I'm afraid, with what's gone on here late in the race for him. And indeed, let's have another look at that final lap all through here as Bram van Hoefden lifted off, and it all kicked off, as we'll see here, from the perspective of Adam Wright. Oh, and there comes the touch there. He tried to squeeze in. I'd like to have just a second look at it. Yeah, there it is. The contact, it's not the big one per se, but it's big for Paddy Sufi. And from there on, Adam Wright, look at the run he has. I think if he just goes to the high side and sticks with it and uses the momentum, he would have gone straight through. That's just the feeling that I have. Look at Daleman trying to give him a push here towards the end. But it's not enough, indeed, for Adam Wright. And Hendrik de Grave takes the win at Talladega. And the Dynamixx 105 is at an end here. With that, that got very, 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 very exciting at the final stages there. And as predicted, for once, that was an intense finish indeed. What a great one. Let's see if we can recall a few results for you to have it final. Here it is. Hendrik de Grave for Flemish Sim Sports picked up the win. 0.2 of a second clear of Adam Wright. Then Kim Behate, John Tusting, and Maddie Sufi, the unlucky soul of this race, rounding off the top 5. Bram van Uyften, Robbie Lundgren, who ran out of fuel on his first stint. And then Bart Daleman, Damien van Imbecile, Paul Gosling, and John Barnes, who I'm afraid involved in incidents of their own there at the end of the race. With that said, the victory donuts for Hendrik de Grave. A well-deserved win. He did win after leading for an awful long time. If we have any drivers willing and able to hop in with us. There are 2 drivers. We rarely do this, but we'll do it tonight. It's 2 drivers from one team indeed. Flemish Sim Sports first and third. Of course, Hendrik de Grave and Kim Behate. I'll start out with you, Hendrik. A perfect way to finish off a race that, well, no more true has it ever been than the NASCAR and chess analogy. This was one long game of chess that finished more like a cycling sprint in the end, didn't it?
Yes, it was a very long race, but I think we really played the team game here, so I'm really happy to finish first. We had some difficult races in the past, but I'm really happy to be first here and third, so thanks.
And indeed, after a good bit of teamwork all the way through, that'll leave you in a perfect position, both in the team standings and in the driver standings, competing against Maddie tonight. There aren't that many races left. How do you see the championship developing from here?
I think it can go every way. You have Mathieu, who is very close, and also some other drivers were actually very close. So it can go still every way. So I'm not sure what will happen. We'll have to see.
And a last question. A few drivers seem to be caught out by changing tires when it didn't really seem to be necessary. How much were you aware of the fact that you could go all the way through on a single set?
Well, after the first pit stop, I saw that my tires were almost 99 to 100%, so there was practically no degradation. So I only changed the first pit stop, and then the second pit stop, we just left them on and just took some fuel.
Well, indeed, your race winner, that was Hendrik de Grave. And moving on to Kim Behate, third place finisher today, and what a piece of teamwork. How much did you discuss the teamwork aspects of this race coming into it?
Hi, Hasse. Good evening. Before the race, we discussed that tactics-wise, we would definitely need to stick together and try to cover off Matthew, because he's Hendrik's biggest competitor for the championship. So that was our mindset going into the race. Try to stick together, and hopefully with the help from some others that turned out Bram really helped us a lot. Keeping the 2 cars at front. Unfortunately, at the end, it didn't quite go as I wanted. I wanted to slow down Matthew a bit using the side draft, but I got too close to him, touched him on the right rear end, and sent him in the wall. So it feels really bad. I really didn't want it to end that way. So it's a big sorry for Matthew.
Well, indeed, a finish of much drama here tonight, and it was a great way to end the race regardless, although it was a shame to see the incident, but that is also a part of racing in the end. That's how it is. Both of you, congratulations on a strong team performance tonight with the win in third place indeed. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to or thanks while they're alive?
Hendrik.
Yeah, I can thank my teammate. We did a great job the entire race, and also Piraco, our sponsor, and also Bram for helping us in the end. So thanks.
Well, indeed, that was the drivers of Flemish Sim Sports, Hendrik de Grave and Kim Behet. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me for this post-race interview. Congratulations on a strong race result, and I'll hope to see you again in the booth soon.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
And with that, I think that'll be all for the interview parts for tonight. I am afraid I don't have Adam Wright available as of this moment. No, so it would seem. Anyways, it means we've reached the concluding parts of a rather interesting race. Although a larger field might have made it even more interesting, but we got a lot of action here at the final point of the race regardless. As you can maybe even hear on my sorry voice, that's how it goes when it gets really, really good. Big thanks to Ed May for hopping in the booth with me today as well. Big thanks to Dynamixx, our sponsor again. Of course, go check out their webpage on the link in the description. And from me, Hasse Reumer, from Edward May, it's been a pleasure having you along here on Simracersworld TV. We'll be back next Monday for more NASCAR racing action indeed. And until then, take care, have fun, bye-bye.